welcome back to another spooky episode of the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we take the movies we love, break them apart, to find out what gives them their sex magique, their blood sugar sex magique. I am your host, Josh Gravey, joined as always by my friend, co-host, and guy who just likes puzzles,
Anthony Kiedis, Alex Dandino, sorry.
Oh my, that's where you're going. All right, I thought you were going to say Wish.com, whatever that fucking other guy's name is. I don't know. It's fine.
James Remar?
No, who's the guy in this, but he looks... Oh, Wish.com, David Borealis. That's what I said. They're both...
David Borealis.
Averagely forgettable white actors with gigantic fucking faces.
Yeah,
Neither here nor there.
They have the hair. It's the hair.
It is, right? It's the thing. And the dude. Neither here nor there. We're off the rails already.
The dude.
You guys have entered the October Mega Marathon. We love the horror movies over here. So every October, we put ourselves through our own little Hellraiser gauntlet, right? 31 days, 31 new pods. These aren't micro pods. These aren't half pods. These are full horror movie pods. So as
Real
you guys
beefy,
know, this
throbbing pods.
Beefy, throbbing pods ready to be hooked by all you listeners. Is it only 4 days and we're like talking like sailors have been lost at sea for 2 weeks?
Oh, yeah. That's
Neither
us.
here nor there. So every day this month, guys, you will get a horror movie. We are starting, of course, with the Hellraiser franchise. Today's film, Hellraiser Inferno. Before we do that, guys, if you want a movie every day this month, they're there. But you got to go to patreon.com/filmalchemistpod and join our club over there. Come on down to the old Hook Dungeon and get yourself some more content, right? Our listeners get a vote on their Patreon exclusives every month, and for this horror movie month, they picked Train to Busan and The People Under the Stairs. 2 fucking exceptionally awesome movies I can't wait to talk about. A feature-length commentary on 13 Ghosts will also be on Patreon, so we have the movies for you every day. Is all you got to do. Go over and support the show. For a small donation, you can get in and get those episodes. Yeah, it means the world to us, guys. It's the best way to support us and what we do. We're working hard to make sure that that is worth your time and money over there. I think you'll like what we're working on. So again, patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. You can subscribe to the YouTube Film Alchemist. You can email us, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. Find us on all the socials you're on. That's a great way to help spread the word, especially this October. That means the world to us, guys. Follow and share. Let's get all the fucking freaks in here into this little sex dungeon. Also, something easy and free you guys can do. It takes but a second. Leave us a 5-star rating and review anywhere and everywhere you find podcast. It helps us defeat the algorithmic Cenobites. They'd be trying to smack our asses, but not in the fun way.
I don't want to defeat the Cenobites. They're just travelers around the dimensions.
I think you will disagree when you wake up post-coitus with your corn hooker. And you're just
corn
like, this
hooker?
Is the hooker who has corn hair.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of my favorite things about the band Korn with a K is that they all have branded hair, right? And this hooker has the corn hair, the sex worker, the sex professional.
It's 2000. Makes sense.
All right. Enough of that bullshit. You guys are here for the fleesh. And we're going to give it to you. Today, Hellraiser 5 Inferno, directed by Scott Derrickson, who has gone on to a great career in horror movies. I actually like this movie. So my story with Hellraiser Inferno, right? This is one I found. Because I watched Hellraiser 1 and 2 and 3. Kind of drifted away from it. I didn't think there would be much past that. We did the classic. We went to the video store Friday night. And I was like, oh, fuck, there's Pinhead on the cover. Hellraiser Inferno. All right. I watched it, and I thought it was just a really interesting way to attack a Hellraiser movie, right?
Right.
What if you took, because we had done, the deep mythology. Part 3 is kind of a less mythological thing, but it's still Pinhead versus human Pinhead battling it out, right? So there's still some mythology. Part 4, we did space and old-timey fancy pants France, right? Really like kind of closing the mythological chapter.
Yeah.
So Hellraiser Inferno made a choice that I think you could argue infected might be the right word. Every sequel that came after it until Judgment, right? Where this essentially starts the phase of, what if we took a spec script that's okay and just fucking jam some Cenobites in there, no lube.
Yeah.
Just hammered them in. And this gets to the part of the Hellraiser franchise where if you take the Cenobites out, the movie's still 90% the same. In this movie, I think it works pretty well, right? Because at this point, it's still novel. We get a pretty interesting, crooked cop story, right? A man falling apart. And then at the end, you have Pinhead just kind of like, you dirty bastard. How fucking dare you? And you're like, that works. I don't know that the damage it wrought on the franchise is its fault. But I think you can see this as the turning point away from a more Cenobite-focused movie. Alex, opening thoughts on Hellraiser Inferno with Wish.com, David Boreanaz. Craig Sheffer?
It's David Boreanaz. And it's
Is it
Craig
Boreanaz?
Yes.
Well, maybe he's the Wish.com David Boreanaz.
This is essentially, I mean, this is a theme, so it's fine.
I thought you were going to be proud of me for remembering an actor's name.
I sort of didn't want to correct you. I wanted to see how long it would take, and like eventually like the pod would come out and you'd be like, did you know that wasn't that guy's name? Like, yes.
I like the idea that David Boreanaz and Craig Scheffler are both watching, and they're like, fuck that guy out there.
Craig Sheffer, for one.
What did I say?
Scheffler.
Fair enough. All right,
you're just throwing
actors,
L's. You're throwing L's in a lot of these.
That's an L on me. I'll take the
You got
L.
a lot of L's in these.
I thought I did a good job remembering names, apparently.
I think Hellraiser Inferno does raise an interesting question about like, because this was the first one that was not at all, like the choice. To me, it's interesting you said choice. Like, what's funny to me is like the choice is including Pinhead in a movie. Like that's the fascinating thing about like the next like 4 or 5 is that all of them are like, maybe we amp this up with a little P-head, you know what I mean? And
once you get to part 9, right, that is a film called Revelations. Now we're trying to bring it back. It's kind of a cliff notes of what we liked about the first one with like a real low budget thing.
Right.
And then Judgment gets back to mythology. These next 4, though.
These are like Hellraiser. These are like Pinhead. This is what we've been talking about, where like Pinhead getting like someone like knocking on his door and he's got in his robe and Slippy's just enjoying the cartoons. And he's like, oh, fine, I will take them to hell. God damn it. And like,
I like the idea that Pinhead's personal hell is just he's in like a way too small trailer, no air conditioned, no crafty. And he's like, oh my God, again. He's in spec script. He's in development hell, right? That's what Pinhead.
That's exactly what it is. Pinhead is in poor Pinhead's sitting in development hell. Like,
oh my God.
Because like this is the other thing I didn't understand about this one is I'm like, why do we have like half Cenobites? Like it's like not fully formed Cenobites, like that whole thing.
I like the idea of Pinhead leaving his trailer. He looks over and essentially he's like, my Cenobites are just sexy Thanos as Sorcerer. Like that's what we're doing. I do wonder if there's a contingent of Marvel fans that see this movie and they're like, oh my God, finally.
There's like
they just have to lock the door and light a candle, you know what I mean?
It's like 2 half sexy Thanos magicians and then literal half a chatterer.
You want to plow Thanos as Sorcerer?
Absolutely.
Have I got a movie for you?
Right, yeah. But it's interesting because like I don't know. I think what I find fascinating about Inferno, because I don't think it's I don't think it's a bad movie, to be honest.
It's a fun ride.
But I think what's interesting is it's a different. I mean, it's not a Hellraiser movie, like at all.
Right. So to lay the groundwork, right? This is one of the first times where we get away from fully because you could say in part 3, right, when they open the box, they're not seeking what's in the box, right? So that's kind of a shift. This is the first one where this guy just finds the box by happenstance. You could say that he's a deviant, right, which clearly he is. But this is not – Pinhead even says that in part 2, right? It's not the box that calls us, it's desire.
Right.
And this one they're like, no. It's
like there's no desire, it's just like happenstance. Do you think the box
is actually tracking him because of his bad behavior? Is that kind of the theory?
Well, that's the thing that I find fascinating about Inferno is this is the first one that truly is about judgment. Like it's not like this has this like Jacob's Ladder thing going on the entire movie, but also like when Pinhead comes in at the end, it's very much about like the judgment of this guy. Like we all know he's a fucking scumbag like from the outset of the movie. There's nothing revealing
they
about
do
that.
A lot of work to make sure
there is a dearth of layering they do is that I always forget how to use the word dearth, but either way there's a
that's
there's
your
a
hell.
there's a whole runway of that guy's a scumbag.
There's a cornucopia of reasons why this guy is no good.
There is a streetlight festival of problems this guy has that get laid out in front of all of us.
We're just gonna keep using all these fucking.
It is like there's a veritable farmer's market of problems. That's an LA reference. No.
Or you think you invented the fucking farmers markets? That's all right.
Well, they're everywhere. No, but the thing that I don't know how I like it. That's the thing. Like, I think it's a really interesting movie. I think the insertion of Pinhead, pun intended, is not. It doesn't work for me because it moralizes Pinhead in a way that I don't understand. That's my problem.
I mean, perhaps. I think the two questions, right, is if you took Pinhead out of this movie, how many people would ever have watched this movie? And would it have been a better movie? I would argue no, right? I think this movie would have just straight disappeared.
I think it would have been the same movie, to be honest with you. Like, it would have...
I think it is using the aesthetic and the promise of Hellraiser to kind of foist a not fully formed idea upon us, right?
Well, it's sort of like Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. You're using a name to get people's butts in the seats.
Own thing, right? They don't even titillate us with some Michael Myers.
Right, but like at the same time, this one literally does its own thing until the very end. But it's the same methodology, which is like you're using a moniker to get a butt in the seat, and then you take them on its own ride. Not a bad ride, like
not a
enjoyable,
bad ride.
Like fascinating. Like
they're like, would you like to see a Twilight Zone episode with a lot more fucking hooks?
Right, that's it.
Yeah, that's fun.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'll take it. Why not? But what I don't like, it is this weird thing and. Like, it was fun. I was reading, like, Doug Bradley actually was kind of into it. Like, he was like, he liked that. And I agree, like, the return of this sort of more psychological turn for Hellraiser. However, my problem with the movie is just in the characterization of Pinhead. When he shows up, feels very moralizing. Like, that's the thing I don't understand is like, it's almost like, okay, so you're going to torture this guy. Makes sense. Like, that's your game. I get it. That's like, but it has less to do with the thing that I like the most about the Hellraiser thing is like, it is sort of this gray area of pain and pleasure and that kind of stuff. This one is mostly just punishing someone. And I'm not sure of the motivation for punishment.
Yeah. He's not the Hell Priest anymore in this one. He's just the Hell Zookeeper.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Now. He is just the devil.
Yeah,
right?
He's the guy.
Yeah, because Hellraiser operates on this kind of like Lovecraftian religion, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
This weird Leviathan, whatever, right? This movie just says, no, he's just the devil.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's what it is. It's a very Judeo-Christian move of making Pinhead essentially like, like the elephant shit shoveler at the zoo of humanity. Like,
how many goddamn peanuts are you gonna eat today? No, it's the thing that I would say, right, is again, I think this is a fun enough ride, right? Like, you start off and he's at this crime scene, they find this guy's slaughtered. All right, they find a little kid's finger in a candle. You're like, that's fucked up.
Cool. Yeah,
again, this has that kind of like low rent 7 thing going, right?
Yeah.
You're like, okay, I'm with you, right? The journey is interesting enough, right? We're chasing this guy, the engineer,
right?
You're like, all right, this is pretty interesting. It keeps your attention well enough. This movie does inject another thing that I think infects the next couple sequels, is we are so fucking far removed from the idea of the flesh, right? And to Doug Bradley's point, this is a purely psychological exercise. From the moment he is in the bathroom post-coitus, and that box gets him, right? He touches the box and drops it.
Right.
Every single thing we see after that moment does not happen.
Right.
So the idea of this kid losing fingers, right? The idea of him suffering, the idea of his parents suffering, of his partners, whoever the fuck, right? Ice Cream Diddler.
Right.
All of this suffering that we are watching like a Hellraiser movie, like, oh, fuck, man, Pinhead's here to collect, right? Him and the engineer have formed some kind of weird, like, fucking Walter White, Gus Fring thing, and they're like, franchising suffering. You're like, hell yeah.
Right.
At the end of the movie, when it is revealed that this is all some kind of elaborate time loop, right? and this is just what he has to do, it leaves a couple giant gaps, right, in your mind, which one, you're like, there's no fucking flesh.
Yeah.
There's no fucking flesh. And again, when we see that he's going to keep reliving this cycle. Okay, so if I wake up in that shitter and I'm like, fuck, I got, I woke up, I tried to kill myself,
Right.
I'm back here in the shitter. What's to stop me from just being like, hey, Cacorn worker, I have another fucking $100 bill in my fake brain wallet. Let's do some more sex Olympics. You know what I mean? And then be like, Pinhead, I'm not fucking investigating. You got to come find me. You're going to have to engineer a device to pull me out of this fucking hotel sex room that I have and make me go through this routine again. So it's one of those, well, I think the ending is clever enough, right? Is that you were the child whose fingers it were.
Sure.
Your spirit is hurting your flesh, right? That's a very Hellraiser sentiment, right?
That's a good one. I like that.
The flesh that he's hurting is his child self, but not really because he's here. And again, why not just keep, I'm just going to have sex with the hooker over and over again until you come kill me, right? My brain, my hell nut, is equally as valuable as my hell pain is detrimental, right?
Right.
It kind of unravels a little at the end, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is the moralizing stuff that's taking place. Is it doesn't really it doesn't do the same thing as it would have if this was about a guy who was trying to solve the puzzle box, trying to find this otherworldly thing. Like, again, it's like the one time, and granted, this guy's a total scumbag, but like I said, it's the first instance of someone literally just accidentally opening things, like not realizing what they had done. So
yeah, Hellraiser 3 dabbles a little because it's in the statue with him.
Right.
But yeah.
But it is just this sort of like happenstance thing of like, oh, lucky. It's like lucky Pinhead, he's got another soul to collect. That's kind of nice. And this guy's a huge scumbag.
Just to maintain.
Right,
Essentially,
exactly.
Pinhead is an aquarium.
This is like fattening the calf, you know what I mean? Like he's just sitting there and just like constantly coming back to the well. But yeah, like it was a really, again, while Doug Bradley was talking about like the psychological aspect, he also said that this was, he liked doing this one because it made Pinhead a more neutral character as opposed to the villains. And I'm like, I completely disagree with that, like altogether.
There is a point where you're like, he's no longer a judge at all. He's just walking through and being like, what a rube. So he is like he is more of a passive.
But I like
once the hell aquarium is set.
Right.
He's just feeding the fish.
I liked the sort of like glass menagerie guy that he is in the first like 4. Mm-hmm. Or wait, is this 5th? This is the 5th one. Jeez, we're doing so many of these.
A shocking amount of Hellraiser sequels.
But yeah, like I like for the first 4, it is like this like glass menagerie, like guy walking through like an aquarium of like, these are my delights. This is the first one that literally he's like, well, you're a dick, and I am going to just like feast on this awesome flesh for a while now. Okay, actually, now that I'm thinking about it,
he doesn't even really do flesh stuff.
No, not at all. Like they just like they get at the end like a little bit with the face pulling, but like
maybe that's the thing though,
happens.
right? Psychological hooks dig deeper into the brain meat than hooks.
Could be, but see here that goes to. So we've seen him like, okay, so he's feasting like the sustenance, so to speak, the way that Pinhead subsists as he travels for ultimate pleasure. As he travels through the world.
Yeah.
Is he feasting on these souls? Does he want these souls?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe this is how I'd... Okay, so the neutrality. I'll retract... If I'm going to go with this train of thought, I'll retract what I thought about the Pinhead insertion. Really what this is actually a movie about Pinhead discovering like a wellspring, like an evergreen hellscape to give somebody to constantly feed on this like rotting soul. It's like a bushel of berries essentially. Like you're constantly able to come back. Yeah.
No, yeah.
Like,
well, this
that
is
makes
kind
sense
of a weird loophole of the Hellraiser franchise, right? while he does drag you to hell, right? Or the labyrinth, as it were. That insinuates that it is a torturing of the soul and the mind, right?
Right.
The problem is that in part 1 and 2, we see so specifically, even part 4 a little bit, right? Is that whatever is in hell can reform itself and escape and create new flesh. So it feels more like it's a physical torture in those first 2, even though it is kind of a gray area, right? It's a soul because it could leave a dead body, but then the body can reconsecrate itself. So it is, it's not wildly different that this is a movie where Pinhead's just torturing him inside of this.
No, it's not
diorama.
Outside the realm of possibility.
I think, if you boil it down, you're like, it's not quite the same, but it's close enough, right? So again, maybe I was incorrect in taking full swings that there's no flesh. But again, this is one of the other ones too where the attacking of the flesh is everyone else's but the person that needs to get fleshed up.
Right, for sure.
Because, why does the snitch diddler have to get it? Why does the kid he bullied in basketball have to get it, right? Why
this
the
has
sex
gotta
worker?
Be,
why
maybe this is the part of the fattening of the calf, you know what I mean? Maybe this is like the feeding. Yeah. Is putting him through all that's the psychological torture, is putting him through all these things that he's inflicted on other people, and that's what makes the flesh so much sweeter, because
maybe because it's a really fun following a dirty cop movie, right? Like when he busts in and he's like, "Hey man, I was with this girl last night, I wouldn't do it," and immediately he starts planning his partner's shit in the room. I was in love with that part of the story, right? Like that, watching this crooked cop try to work it out, knowing that he's just trying to clear his name, is wonderful. When we get to the end of the movie and I'm like, am I supposed to think he's actually concerned that Tony's getting whipped up? No, but perhaps it's just because he's like, great, that's another thing I got to fucking come up with an elaborate ruse for. But it just, I don't, this. He never even goes to visit his parents, right? The lady's like, I didn't know the Thorns had a son.
Right.
All right, well, that doesn't have as much emotional impact, right?
Well, I think
Frank being like, I gotta fucking eat people's brains so I can come back, perfect sense.
Yes.
This guy who's such a narcissist in the center of his own little fucking dark world, do we really think he cares that his wife and kid are under threat? His partner,
I think that's
whoever?
the bigger problems in the movie, I think, throughout, is the things that are emotionally assigned to have any sort of impact only have impact if we actually have empathy for this guy. That's the crazier thing about this movie is I do not care that this guy is going through this weird sort of Jacob's Ladder torture hell. Literally you're just watching and you're like, you probably deserve this. There's a lot of that going on in the movie.
But there are a lot of movies about bad guys, and that's again because we know it's a Hellraiser movie.
There's a lot of movies,
foregone conclusion that this guy's gonna get got, right?
There's a lot of movies about bad guys, but normally there is this level. There's a level of empathy written into the story so that you have some form of
the saves the cat thing, right? Give him one thing.
It's
one
exactly
bit of
you
humanity.
have the one thing. Yeah, you have the one shred of humanity. You're like, all right, cool. They do not give Joseph Thorne a lick of that in this movie.
Well, he's a bad dad. He's a bad husband. He's a bad cop.
He's just a dick. He's
just
a bad person.
He never has a moment where you're like, that's a guy I can kind of
so,
root for.
He's a bad okay, so this would be this is the thesis I have for what Pinhead's pursuit of this guy is. And maybe this is what makes this movie different, what makes it a little special, because it's Derrickson. So he is the first person in the franchise to just happenstance open the box. You're like, okay, cool. So now we're in this Wishmaster situation where you're like, all right, well, whatever. This is just some guy who showed up. Maybe when he opens the box and Pinhead is sitting in his robe and slippies trying to watch his stories, and the box
I'm on my Union 15.
The box is let's say the box is opened, and he sees this soul. He's like, oh, that is a disgusting soul. Maybe this is what it is instead of it being a moral, instead of being moralizing and something that Pinhead is actually judging him for. Maybe what he's actually doing, and this goes with my fattening of the calf theory, is okay, this soul is rotten already.
Yeah.
Why don't I just put him through all this psychological torture to give him all this empathy to make his soul all the sweeter? That's got to be how it works for me.
There is a theory in, again, getting back to the Twilight Zone analog, right? This theory of, why is this hell for this guy, right? Specifically, right?
No, totally.
This piece of shit cop, right? He's pretty used to, like if you watch The Shield, right? One of my favorite shows ever.
Yeah.
Every person in that team is a pretty despicable piece of shit almost all the time.
Yes.
And part of the fun of the game is you're like, I know they're bad guys, but you're always interested to see how they're going to get out of it, right?
Right.
That's kind of how this one operates, right? Is how is this guy going to solve this, right? He's this guy who has to solve the puzzle. The problem is the puzzle he's solving is like an image you don't want to see, right? Like, this is pretty bad. And so watching that journey is pretty fulfilling, right? Watching him run around. And there's almost this, I don't want to say Pottersville version of reality, where like when he sees the tape, right? And he sees the horror, the one thing in this movie, if I could rip one thing out of this movie, it's the cartoon black tongues. Rip him out, right? He sees the guy like lick the finger and put it in the cash box, right? When his snitch is all fucked up in the car.
Right.
When he goes in there, and he's just like, God damn it. And they're like, we can't find the finger. He's like, it's in the cash register. It's right there, right? And they're like, oh, it's on the tape that only you could fucking see. Right. In that moment, watching him be so frustrated and squirm, they don't have necessarily a moment where we should empathize with him. What we're supposed to do is just watch him fucking sizzle, right? The frog in the boiling water thing, right? And watching him be so frustrated, that's the part of the story I really enjoy, right? The journey to like the poker saloon where he just meets the weirdest fucking cowboy who has two Asian fucking sidekicks that karate his ass.
Absolutely.
That's just awesome though, right? Like it makes no fucking sense in the context of the movie. Yeah. But you're like, it's a weird enough image. You're like, I love that. That's in the movie, right?
Right.
I think all of the first bit, right, where he's just a cop trying to get out of it, wonderful. I do wonder what I'm supposed to get out of him walking back through. Like, they're trying to say something about his relationship with his mom and dad. I don't know what.
Couldn't tell you what it is.
I know he fucking shoots them with the shotgun when push comes to shove.
All these sort of memories that he has, like that he's experiencing through the movie, again, it's just one of those things where it's like, I have no preface for this because the preface we had in the beginning of the movie is this guy's a crooked cop. He's a dick. He like just constant drug use and hooker looks. Like it's just so much. And then you're like, okay, so he has a family and all this stuff. But
dude, he comes home from work and his wife's like ready.
Yeah.
In a bathroom. He's like, oh, I caught a case. And then goes find, fucking dreadlocks on the corner.
Right.
His daughter's like, is daddy home? Not now, damn it. Dad's got a hard on.
It's very strange. But again, it's one of those things where...
It's fun to watch him sizzle, though.
It is. Like, again, I think this is like a really unique movie in that it's fun to watch. But it does lack this Hellraiser quality that I think I like about the first four. Maybe. And this is another thing too. This is just a 2000s critique, and this this happens when things are direct to DVD and that kind of thing, but I do think like practical effects are so like when James Remar dissolves into Pinhead, I absolutely hate like that. I hate that like bad CGI.
That one didn't bother me. The one that killed me was at the end when the kid's in the chair and they do the woo, and the chair like spins away. I was like, that could have been better.
It's James Remar dissolving into Pinhead.
Let's talk about James Remar though. That was a really cool addition to the movie.
I thought it was cool. I liked that.
Why is Pinhead taking a fucking guise?
I don't know. Why is it a priest? Like, there's all these other questions. Like, is he just
therapist priest? Yeah.
Is he walking?
He was really good in this movie.
But this goes back to my like fattening up theory. Like, maybe he's like, oh, this is how I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to get inside this dude's brain so that I can actually like make the soul that much better. So you're like, that makes more sense. But like it's just like it's that direct to DVD visual effects stuff. Like when his when his wife and child are like spinning, like they're frozen and they're just like dissolving. I mean, you're telling me there's nothing practical you could have done here instead?
That scene was fucking awesome, though.
Fucking great.
Like when he
Fucking
comes home
great.
and it's just the spinner and the fucking snow in the living room.
Yeah.
I thought, one, it was great, but two, the fact that he just comes in and he's like, this is a real thing.
Yeah.
This is really happening. Like, he just is on his knees in snow in his living room. James Remar pops up and he's like, bummer. If only you were here to put a coat on him. It's like,
Right.
wait, what? And he's just accepting it as truth. But when he grabs the hand and the fucking kid's arm snaps off, oh my God. And then they wake up, Daddy, what are you? And they all fucking start crumbling. That was a great fucking scene, man. I guess to your point, though, right? So this does operate a lot like A Christmas Carol, right? Like Marley and Marley coming back, like, we're going to walk you through what you done. Except at the end, he doesn't get to buy a turkey for Tiny Tim. He is the fucking turkey. You know what I mean? That's kind of the gamut of this.
All right, I like that. That's a good one.
So he is the turkey that they're going to fucking.
I like how this is just like a metaphor fest of what this movie actually is.
We're doing a lot of analogies and metaphors.
A lot of analogies and metaphors to get across our points here for this. But I like that. You know, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. Inferno's an interesting one for me because it's the one that I was so excited to see another Hellraiser movie. Right. And I really, really liked it. I think this exercise that we're doing, right, watching all of them in a row and kind of talking through them as they evolve, I think the unfortunate problem with Inferno is that they did what they had to do, right? We don't have a grandiose budget. We can't fucking make Leviathan and this and that, right? How do we get the most out of this, right? And so they do this great. The one thing that I still think is one of the weirdest things in the movie is when he's like, I'm Denver PD. And I was like, Denver?
It is a strange choice.
Like, and why not just say LA?
Never justified. I have no idea why it's a guy from Denver. Like,
yeah, like it looks an awful lot
literally
like LA.
Could have been anywhere. Like, but it is like, but it's a $2 million budget, and that's a stretch. I mean, dude, that's stretching a dollar. Like, you have a great
lot
location.
Out of this movie.
You get a lot out of it. It's really good. Yeah,
yeah, and that's what I'm saying, right? So, as we're going through this, it's just this fun ride. And we know Pinhead is the inevitable destination. So I think this movie made a calculated choice that was a really smart one, right?
Right.
We can do this kind of half-ass 7 movie, right? And it's going to be fun. Kids' fingers. We know this guy is somehow going to get got at the end. It's a fun exercise of, you know, it's the Damocles sword, right? It's just hanging over my head. Right. I know it's going to fall. When? I think the problem is that now Inferno for me is catching shrapnel for the other movies I've had to watch, where it's all false realities and dream states, and you know, Pinhead just is here because, and that's not Inferno's fault, right? Inferno made a perfectly legitimate decision as the 5th fucking movie in the Hellraiser franchise. There was probably no fucking clear roadmap in anyone's head. It's like, yeah, we'll get 5 or 6 more of these motherfuckers. Right. So you do what you got to do to get that movie out into the people. And I would imagine most people have Inferno in their top half of the Hellraiser movies, right?
I would hope so. Because again, it is a unique entry into the series. Like, it does not play by any rules other than its own. And I think that's that's worthy. It's a worthy addition.
Really well acted, right? Craig Sheffer is Sheffer.
Good job.
Craig Sheffer is really good in this movie.
Yeah.
He's really engaging. And even though, you're just like, God, I want to spit on that guy.
Right.
He's really fun to watch.
For a guy who is truly and honestly like a classic TV character actor, he carries the movie. He does a very nice job.
Oh, my God, for sure. He runs with this motherfucker. It's really good, man. I like it a lot. It's just, I think once we get to the kind of ending, I wish they would have kept the ending more in line with the detective story we had been watching, right? Because once we get into, like, because I still don't understand. So he went back to his house. That's when he was happy. But because he's now a philanderer, as an older guy, that's chopping his childhood fingers off. And like, once he gets a little metaphysical, but like, you know, he's running around and he's fighting.
It's not
like
bad. Like,
the hooker jumps out at him, and it's like, her neck when he pushes her neck. That's great.
Yeah.
Right? When Tony's like the knives in his back, 'cause he's betrayed him like 5 times in the movie. Right. And he's fucking whipping the knives at him. That's fucking cool.
It's cool.
It's just cool, man. Right? Like
There's
even
great-
his parents like getting old and then he has to shoot his parents.
Oh,
Weird.
dude, yeah.
What a
Weird.
good scene.
Again, there's a lot of really cool visuals and a lot of really cool moments, and it's just like, it's fun, and it's that kind of movie, and like, and then there's Pinhead, and you get a little Hellraiser action, and then you move on. I don't know, very fascinating film.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? I take away from this, it's kind of fun, it's kind of gritty.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we get the fucking martial arts cowboys. That was great. It's fun. And
weird.
honestly, even at the end, right, when Pinhead does come in, you're like, now he's earning his money, right? The combination between the therapist and Pinhead carry enough of that scene where I'm still digging it, right? I can't remember what Pinhead fucking says at the end, right? Like he says right at the end.
It says welcome to hell.
No, but he says, don't you recognize your own flesh?
Oh, yeah.
Right? And I love that line he says, right? So he has his classic, that's what Pinhead's for, is to say these like, you fucking idiot humans.
Yeah.
And he says that, the eternal refrain of humanity, begging for mercy, pleading ignorance. This is the hell you've created for yourself. And I was like, that's awesome. Like, that is awesome, right? I like the idea of us being like, what? Why are bad things happening to me? I'm such a good person. You're
and
like,
it does do a good job of like, sort of, again, when I think about it the way I want to think about it, that like in the way that he's waiting for the soul to get sweeter, it does absolve him of that judgment. Like that judgment that I think like is sort of like in that Judeo-Christian vein, because I never think of Hellraiser in that way.
well, that's what made it so wonderful. It was so outside of that.
Right, exactly. So like I think like I've watched this twice this month. So like it's one of those things where like I remember the first time watching it, like that's a weird thing. Like it's weird that Pinhead's like sitting there in judgment. And this time watching it, I was able to kind of reconstruct it and be like, oh, this is really more like Pinhead is just like literally laying out the facts of the case. It's like a Perry Mason episode.
Yeah.
Just with more whips and chains.
Andy Griffith here. Things went bad for old Andy after his trial.
Things went bad for old Andy.
You
But
didn't
now,
see all the crooked shit I was up to, all the crooked
his whipped
chicanery.
and chained.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing, right? Is that this is kind of the point where Clive Barker created this wonderful universe out of his unique life experience, right?
Right.
It felt, and that's the thing, if you read his books, man, they're so fucking visceral, right? It's almost like you can fucking feel fluids as you're turning the page, right? That's just how it was. This feels like someone who's like, I also know weird sex stuff.
Right.
And it's like they're using it as window, like the scene when he goes to the tattoo shop, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're like, this just feels so fucking forced, right? Like someone doing like a high school play version of what this sexual underground would look like.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, again, that's not anyone's fault, man. Clive Barker is one of the masters of horror because of that lens.
Right.
And it's inevitable. The further you get away from that, you're going to start getting these kind of things like, yeah, let's just have two kind of attractive Cenobites, like,
Right.
doing whatever. Are they related? I guess that's taboo. Like, what's happening?
Again, I have no idea what they're there for, but
yeah, and that's the thing, though, right? So we're at this fulcrum of the series, and a choice was just made. I can get a pretty good, gritty, crooked cop Twilight Zone episode done.
Right.
And Pinhead will fucking seal the deal. And I think on every fucking gamut of this film, I think they won. There's not anything in this film, right? Again, the spinning chair and some of the effects, not great. The black tongue's not great. The Cenobites are the weakest probably in the entire franchise.
Sure.
But I think across the board, this movie succeeds in everything it tried and everything it needed to make a really fucking fun sequel, right?
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
It's worth a watch. It's worth a watch. And I can't say
I
that for a lot of
as
sequels.
number 5 in my Hellraiser rankings, ironically. The weird one that everyone is going to be like, what the fuck, Griffey? Hellraiser Judgment, number 10, is now my number 4. Because of the mythological implication. I think it is one of those things, right? Hellraiser is the one franchise where I kind of like the mythology. It matters to me more than a lot of other horror franchises. But this one in Judgment would like switch for what's my top half and what's in the bottom half for me. These are kind of the gatekeepers, fun sequels, right? And then we kind of dip down into some others as we talk about Hellseeker tomorrow. Again, I think Hellseeker is a really interesting companion piece to this one too, because it tries to do Hellseeker is trying to do Inferno, and you really see the difference between having someone at the helm like Scott Derrickson, who really gets the absolute most out of this theory, versus Hellseeker, which to me kind of embodies all of the worst elements of the Hellraiser franchise. It's an interesting movie to study because you're like, this was where it started to really get off the rails for people. Right. But yeah, man, I think Inferno is a really worthy and fun Hellraiser. It's even hard to even kind of call it a Hellraiser movie. It's just kind of its fun little own thing.
It's its own little pocket universe almost.
Yeah. That's it for Hellraiser Inferno. That's not it for the Hellraiser. We've got a bunch more culminating in the new Hellraiser 2022. Ooh, yeah. I'm sure you guys have seen the trailers, the pictures. I'm sure you guys are fucking excited as we are, man. Let's see. Can Hellraiser 2022 top Inferno? Can it top Judgment? God forbid, are we talking about this being a top 2 best Could this be the best Hellraiser movie ever? I find that a mountain too far, but
very difficult to believe.
If it is, that is going to be one of the greatest gifts of my entire life. So I am fucking ecstatic. We will then move on to Wishmaster. We got some other fun stuff coming up for you. A lot of amazing guests for you on the end of this month. So, guys, I hope you are having as much fun as we are every October. 31 days, 31 pods. If you want all 31, you have to go to patreon.com/filmalchemistpod and join our dark Cenobite club we got down there. It's fun. It's a pocket universe of our own pleasures, right? Analogies and misusing dearth and all kinds of good shit going on over there. That's a callback, baby. That's a comedy hook right now.
That's right. That's a wraparound, friends.
Patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. Join the fun. Get your horror movie every day this month. Celebrate the greatest month of the year with us. We will be back tomorrow. Oh, yeah. YouTube, Film Alchemist. Email, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. Leave those fucking ratings and reviews. Find us on social media. Share it with all your fucking friends. Tell your friends about us. Or maybe we'll put your fingers in a candle. That was aggressive.
Yeah.
But we might. We fucking might. That's a puzzle for you to solve, friendos.
If you're going to bug Pinhead with his robe and slippies on, that's your business.